Whoa. Oh yeah, it's going there. Welcome back to Money Grip. As always, it's your boy Ron. The sun's blinding me, and we're doing something very stupid to my reliable daily driver. So this is my 2006 Mercedes Benz C230 Sport. If you've been following along with this build on this car, you know it's got a 3.5 liter swapped in it. So the reason that happened is because when Mercedes designed the 272, they did a dual stage intake. So what that means is it has flaps on the inside that change the physical runner length of the intake for more torque and peak horsepower. But the byproduct of that is it's made of plastic and they break, and that's why the 2.5 liter blew up in this car. So in this episode, we're going to start with the design phase of putting ITBs on an engine that nobody gives a single fuck about. Or shit. But before we start, I'm going to show you how I got to this point right now. We're going to use some of these for templates, some of these, and 2 of these to get rid of my problems. But first, we have 2 too many throttles. Let's take some off with the most evil wrench known to man. 6 nuts later, here we are, 6-packing it. Right here we have 2 sets of first generation Hayabusa throttle bodies with Mikuni KRS-002 velocity stacks. These are 30 mil in height. The goal with this project is to use this equipment and the factory equipment. Let me show you which factory pieces that we'll be keeping. The first thing that we're going to be keeping and modifying is the engine cover / filter box in the cold air intakes. Moving to the wiring rat's nest of engine, we will be keeping the factory ECU, the factory fuel rail, the factory MAF, and the factory map sensor. Right off the rip, you could see some problems that we're going to have to deal with. We have the ECU trying to occupy the same space as the runners, and a bunch of stuff in the way, like the wiring harness where the fuel rail crossover on the back of the rail is welded and kind of in the way of runners 3 and 6. And on this engine, the way Mercedes numbered the cylinders is this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Besides the components that I just named and the issues that we're going to face with the ECU and the fuel rail, there's a very glaring thing about this car that people that have one know about, others don't. This car is drive-by-wire. So what that means is there's no cable going from the pedal to the throttle. There's wires instead and 2 potentiometers so that each respective item knows what the other's doing with redundancy. So what we're going to be doing is taking the throttle body and essentially turning it into an actuator instead to move the 6 instead of just being electronically controlled 1. We have to come up with a linkage system, know how much travel each thing has so that we can make a non-binding and easy operating linkage system so that we have minimal failures or no failures. That's the whole goal. And we have to come up with a airbox solution to be able to use the MAF so that we can use all stock equipment for now. I'm trying to get some horsepower gains. I would like to see 100 horsepower per liter, but with the compression and the cams that are currently in this engine, that's not going to happen. So I'd like to see like around 310 wheel respectively. Looking at the engine from the side, you can see we have pretty ample space to work with in between the timing chain cover and the end of the block. So this is where the ITBs are going to live, and we're going to try to take this and move it and make our own elbow piece for the box. I'd like to have the box above the valve cover, but also being completely clear so we could see it when I pop the hood at shows and events and stuff. One thing we might do is delete the secondary air pump, this ugly ass check valve, the other ugly ass check valve, and this whole bracket. We might have to lose some nice easy stuff and cut this off to get some more space, depending on how much space the ITBs in the box want to take up. But the name of the game is we have to come up with a solution for where the MAF is going to go and where the ECU is going to go. I'm going to attempt to relocate the ECU without extending the harness. We'll see how that goes. And as the map sensor goes, it doesn't really matter where that goes as long as there's a vacuum tube going to it. Speaking of vacuum, if you look, you see each throttle has these two ports and then the injector location. I think the stock vacuum ports are too small for this amount of displacement, so we'll probably be using a thread-in fitting inside of the injector location and capping off those two small ports, and we'll have a vacuum like manifold hidden in the valley of the block to supply vacuum for the crankcase, the brake booster, and the map sensor, and the charcoal system, and we'll have some catch cans and all that to separate fluids and stuff. Let's put this shit back together and go inside and look at some of the drawings that I started on. I wonder if this is like what German boomers like imagine their shit looking like. I wish this engine wasn't so ugly with this rat's nest ass wiring harness. Also, I got distracted. Whoops. So with this project, I'm doing some modeling. I'm doing 2D modeling where I'm drawing it on like a blueprint, and I'm also going to be doing some 3D modeling as well. So it's easier to make something out of nothing based off of some like flat drawings. So here's what I have so far. This is a drawing of the intake manifold gasket that bolts to the cylinder head. So this shape is going to be the flat flange that bolts to the head with these 4 bolts per side. And then these X's are the injector locations. And then the pluses are the fuel rail bolt locations. So we have to dodge those along with these dotted lines. That's how the rail lives on this, so we could see where we have some space. So essentially we're gonna end up taking this shape right here, this pentagon shape, and going with this shape right here. And we're probably gonna end up moving it over and probably forwards on both sets. So it'll still be staggered. This isn't like an actual representation because the intake itself is actually about like yay watt. Oh my God. Like here's a pencil for scale, like regular ass pencil. So now I'm gonna show you my first concept of how it's gonna look. It's gonna do like something like this, where it like kicks off to the side from a rear view, and then this is the front view. So like in the car it would sit like this, and these weird organic shapes are just rough drawings of like indent inside of the circle shape. So right here, instead of it being like this protrusion, it would actually suck inwards, like to go in for where the injector would go down, and this protrusion is where it bolts onto the manifold. And we have this flat collar spot, and that's where the rubber coupler will go for the box. Now as far as the intake box itself, where the map is going to live on and cover the ITBs, so there's no like vacuum leaks or anything, so that the map actually reads the correct air. I don't have any drawings for that yet. It's going to be a pretty simple rectangle shape. I would like it to be like part of the stock cover because I like how the stock cover looks. It hides how ugly the stock engine is with the stock wiring harness and all the PCV stuff. I'm going to break down why I want to do this. So now that we're through the boring talking parts about what I'm doing, I'll get to the why. Why am I doing this? Well, simply put, Mercedes made a plastic single stage intake for this engine, but they discontinued it for obvious reasons. It doesn't break, and this intake is $1,000 from Mercedes. So where's the real moneymaker here? Not the upgraded plastic one that uses a V8 throttle body, which would be the natural, easy way to do this. So that's reason 1 for why we're doing this. Reason 2 I've built a turbo car already. I've had several stock bolt-on cars. I've always wanted a naturally aspirated car with ITBs so I could hear it ripping. It's going to be my first time on ITBs, and I feel like it's going to be a really fun project, and I kind of want to see how cheap I can do it for. The third reason I want to do this is ITBs is just the coolest thing. Race cars started getting lame when they started going away from being NA. Fire breathing turbo cars are awesome in their own way, but there's just something about an NA car ripping with a million RPMs that's just so cool. I kind of want to like relive that like time period of like race cars with my daily driver. It's not going to have the same effect because it's going to have a box covering the ITBs, so it'll be mildly muffled. I'm going to put some videos up for like inspiration. I hope you guys enjoy this project and where it goes. I'm going to be keeping tabs at the end of every video for how much I've spent. So far I spent $300 on both sets of boosted throttle bodies, and I spent right around $200 for the velocity steps. So right now, let's call it we're $500 deep in this project. Like and subscribe for more weird cars with weird modifications.